Good morning, pre-calculus. I'm going to be going over some of the important vocabulary in our unit on probability, and I think that this is really important for us to get this right because can be confusing because these words are used in everyday language and they mean something really specific in probability. And I'll tell you this, even Sal Khan gets these mixed up a little bit, so everybody just has a little bit of trouble with that, and sometimes it'll get in the way if we don't know exactly what we're talking about. So let's just be real specific here, and for you could look in our book. This is the consistent with our book. So anyway, the first thing we're going to look at is what is a probability experiment, or just an experiment, we call it. And so that is going to be something like, for example, I'm going to like flip two coins. So I flip two coins. That is a probability experiment. So my example, flip two coins. And so the definition is basically this, is I can repeat that and do it again. So it's a repeatable. It's a repeatable procedure. Repeatable procedure that involves chance, or that is random, and has a well-defined set of outcomes. Okay, well, outcome is one of our words. We're going to define that, but that's just basically a result. And in this case, I got two heads, so that's one of my outcomes. The trial is basically what I just did. It's basically conducting the experiment. So in this case, flipping the coins is our trial. So an outcome is like heads heads. That's an outcome. It might be important to know like which we got the heads on. Like what if we got a heads just on one of them? Like there's a penny and a dime here. Well, whatever. But the outcomes are the possible results. Well, actually, I should say a possible. And one outcome is a possible result of a trial. We have to be clear here because sample space is all the possible results of a trial. So this is defined as the set of all possible results. Or I could say the set of all possible outcomes. Okay, so in this case, what is one result? Well, heads heads is one result. I'm just going to write HH. That means heads heads. We'll just do that. Okay, so that's one result. The sample space is all possible results. So let's just look at all the possible results. I could get heads heads. I could get heads on the dime and tails on the penny. So I could get heads heads. I could get heads tails. I could get tails tails. Now I missed one because I got heads on the dime and tails on the penny, but it's essentially a different result if we switch these. So we get heads, tails, heads. So you might think that's the same thing, but it's not. Now this would be the same thing. That's still heads on the penny, tails on the dime. It's the same as that. But physically, this is a different result, and it has to be one of our outcomes, one of our possible outcomes. And if I wanted to find out the probability of getting a heads on the dime and a tails on the penny, then it would just be this one, not that one. So there would be 1 out of 4. So we have to keep that straight. Anyway, an event is basically what I'm trying to find the probability of. If I want to say, what's the probability of getting 2 tails? So let's say my event is 2 tails. Now, there is only one way to get that. I could also say this is tails, tails, right? Tails, tails. So the event is the set of desired outcomes. Or sometimes we use the word successes for desired outcomes. The set of desired outcomes, or the set of successes. So there's one of these, okay? So in this particular case, maybe I'm just like saying, what is the probability of getting 2 tails? If I say, what's the probability of getting a heads and a tail, there's 2 ways to get that. So I have 2 members of my set in my events, okay? And the last thing we're going to look at is how to calculate probability. Of an event. So that's what's the probability of getting 2 tails? So I would say the probability of my event equals, first of all, I have to know how many elements are in this set, how many outcomes are successes. So we have the number of possible successful outcomes. Divided by the number of possible outcomes. Okay, that's basically it. It's tempting to say the probability is the events over the outcomes, right? Because but there's the number of elements in the events over the number of elements in the sample space. So we have to look at it that way. So in this particular case, what's the probability of getting 2 tails? Well, the probability of 2 tails, and I could say this probability of 2 tails, usually you just write that in words, and this is the notation we use, is equal to the number of possible successful outcomes. There's one way to do that, and there's 4 possible outcomes. That's the number in our sample space, 4. So that's 1/4. Okay, so that's how you do it, and there you go. One other thing I wanted you to do on your assignment today is just flip a coin 100 times and record the results. So you're just going to flip the coin 100 times and record the results. You'll do that on a piece of paper, and you'll just say, okay, I got tails, tails, and you just keep going until you get to 100 tails. Okay, so maybe that wasn't a correct flip, but you get the idea, and you just keep going to 100. If you don't have a coin, or you just don't want to do this, you really don't want to do this, you could always just make it up, because how would I know? Well, that's actually what I'm going to try to do. I'm going to try to figure out who in the class actually flipped the coin and who made it up. So I actually need some people to make it up. If you think you're good at just coming up with random numbers, go ahead and try. And I'll see if I could decipher your work and see if I think that you made it up or actually flipped the coin. Anyway, I'll have your answer tomorrow. Please submit your work and have a great day.